All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Jason Galiner, and I'm the Global Education Manager for In-House Interactive. Today, we are talking about the benefits of workforce management, and we're lucky enough to have Dave Hookstra, a Senior Solutions Engineer from Teleopti, here to share with us. Feel free to ask any questions in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll try to answer them after the webinar. Dave, take it away.
All right, so hi everybody. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time today. My goal here is to give you a brief introduction into workforce management, what it does, what it entails, and how you can potentially use it. There are a lot of applications for workforce management in a contact center environment, but we're going to talk about why we need it, what we're trying to do, and how we're going to accomplish it. So don't worry, it's not going to be super technical. It's going to stay very high level. And just to reiterate, if you do have questions, please use the questions chat on the GoToWebinar screen, and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. So just to get rolling here, a bit about myself so that you know what I look like and who I am. I've been in the contact center world for about 20 years. 15 of that was workforce management experience, so a lot of experience doing forecasting and scheduling across several different industries. And even you can do the math here. I spent the first 5 years of my call center career on the phones. So I know what it's like to be in a call center environment. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the desk. So again, thanks for having me, and appreciate your attendance today. So what is workforce management? Well, I'm going to commit the ultimate sin here of presentations and read to you directly from the screen. So the art of having the right number of correctly trained and skilled staff in the right place and at the right time with the right supporting resources to handle an accurately forecasted workload at service level and with quality, right? So there you go. That's the definition of workforce management. Clear as day, right? Thanks to Geert Kuhl, the professor in queuing theory and optimization at some university in Amsterdam. We ultimately thank him for this definition. But if we go to the next one, what is workforce management in English, right? To us in the call center industry, it's a really simple question. Do I have the right number of people on the phones? All right, so you can make an argument that on the phones is a bit of a misnomer because we want the right number of people in every situation, whether we're talking about phones, whether we're talking about chats, emails, back office people. We still have the eternal question of, do I have the right number of people to take care of my staff, right? That's a constant question in every call center environment in the world. Do I have the right number of people? And there's one thing I'd like to point out about this. You'll notice I said the right number of people, right? Not enough. We can always get enough people on the phones. We can always say, hey, throw an extra 100 bodies out there and have them take calls. Because that's easy, right? We're going to have 100% service level for the rest of the day, and we're not going to have any problems. Except that when it comes time to cut paychecks, now we have our problem. So we need to know the right number of people on the phones and not enough people on the phones. That's a very critical piece of how we want to approach this problem. So how do we do it? A lot of companies, let me kind of tell you a brief story about how a lot of companies still work. You know, you start a company, you're selling a product or you're selling a service, and with any company that sells anything, you need to have some sort of support mechanism for your customers, and that usually entails a phone line, right? So you employ someone to sit on the phones and answer phone calls during the day. And over the time, you start to sell more product, you grow a little bit, and we now have 3 or 4 people answering the phones, and we need to start creating a schedule for these people to take these phone calls. So now what do? We turn to our old friend Excel. Excel is the best tool out there until it isn't, right? So we follow this method here. We need a schedule, and Excel is free, and people know how to use it. So let's build a schedule. Well, then as our company grows, we start doing things like expanding our operating hours. We increase our staff to accommodate the higher call volume and new hours. We start paying real money to our employees. And what I mean by that is not their salary, but all of a sudden, the allocation of dollars to the number of people we have doing customer service becomes a large chunk of our payroll that gets spent on every day. Okay, then you tack on, because we have other operating hours, longer times to answer the phone calls, maybe we're open weekends now, you have this one person whose job it is to try to build out these schedules, and they're going crazy, right? They're working really hard for not a lot of return. So we start to see in this last bullet, we get higher costs due to lack of visibility. Okay, so we start to see a real problem arise in the sense that we have these people working for us and we're paying them real money to start taking these calls, but we're not getting efficiency out of it. So one of the things I always say is the two worst things that can happen in a call center are customers waiting for agents and agents waiting for customers. If you have customers waiting for agents, your service quality is not as great as it should be, right? You never want your customers waiting on the phone. They can wait a little bit of time. That's always acceptable. But when you have 10, 15, 20-minute hold times for your customers, that's not reflecting the kind of quality you want to give to your customers. And on the flip side, if you have agents waiting for phone calls, you have people sitting there doing nothing and getting paid for it. And that's not a good recipe for success when we come into looking at profitability and things like that. And that's where workforce management steps in. So we're starting to look at the bottom bullet points here. And workforce management, we can really start to improve the customer experience by making sure that we're creating a forecast. So what is a forecast? A forecast is simply a prediction of how many calls or emails or chats you're going to get at any particular time of day. And if your forecast is good, everything else becomes good as a result. So we can start to schedule to that forecast and track how well your agents are actually sticking to their schedule, right? It doesn't do us any good if we create this awesome schedule if nobody follows it. So workforce management can give you the tools to kind of track and manage through those kind of things. It can help you facilitate budgeting exercises. So we can start to look at the what if problem, right? How many times has anyone ever had to answer a question that starts with a what if? What if our handle time goes up by 50% over the next 6 months? What if our call volume goes up 20% over the next 18 months? What if our attrition goes down by 6% over the next 2 years? Those questions are really, really hard to answer in Excel. But with a workforce management solution like Teleopti, you can start to very easily answer those questions and start to really kind of put together the different pieces that help make a long-term solution. The next bullet, improve work-life balance with staff. Agents are very important to us. They take a long time to train and to season to get into a role where they're good at what they do. I mean, if you stop and think about your agents right now, you can probably think of 2 or 3 of them off the top of their head that are worth more than one agent. They're so good at what they do. How do we retain those people? How do we make sure that they stay with us for a longer period of time? That's what work-life balance is all about, is by making them not hate their job. We want them to enjoy coming to work every day, and we all know that working in a call center is a tough job sometimes. So anything we can do to make their lives more balanced, that's what we want to do. Workforce management can do that through things like agent preference scheduling. So let's start taking into account what schedules our agents want and then balancing those kind of things. Giving them tools to help them have more visibility into the next 2 weeks of their schedule, things like that. Enable process improvement. We've already hit on a number of those different things, but here's a simple one. How long does it take your company to answer a vacation request from an agent? Is an agent waiting 2 or 3 days to get that vacation request approved, or should they be waiting 2 or 3 hours? Okay, the little things start to add up when you don't have these kind of solutions in place. Provide leadership confidence to make decisions based on actual data, not gut feel. If you've worked in a call center without WFM, you know what it's like to make decisions based on gut feel. Somebody says, hey, can we have a meeting this afternoon? And you say, well, Wednesday afternoons are typically not that busy, so sure, go ahead. Is that the kind of data we want to be using to create schedules? No, it probably makes sense to have a more scientific approach with real data. And then make known implications of operational decisions through scenario planning. So what does that mean in English? It's those what ifs that we were talking about. What if this happens, or what if this goes down? How can we be prepared for those kind of scenarios? So in short, this slide is all about, how can we grow from an organization where we're fighting everything to an organization where decisions are made based on real data and they're easy to make. And that's the whole key. No more wrestling with the decision process. That's what workforce management can really help you do. So here's a good example of kind of what we're talking about. This is what we call a non-optimized schedule. You see the blue line represents the number of scheduled agents. And yes, this is a bit of an oversimplified example, but you can see here I've got 35 agents scheduled across the board the entire day. But the green line represents my incoming volumes. So we have problems in this particular method, right? So on the left here, where we have way more calls than we do agents setting up, our service levels are plummeting, right? During this time frame, our service levels are going down. So what do we do? What do we do to make that up? Well, if our service level's low, we overcompensate for the rest of the day. And that's where you get the example on the right here, where there are more agents than there are calls coming in. By keeping our calls steady, we're bumping our service level up, but it's costing us excessive amounts of money because those agents, like we showed, are sitting there doing nothing. So how does workforce management attack and solve this particular problem? Well, that's what we do, is by making that forecast line match the agent's line like this. Now we've eliminated all of those excessive periods where agents are waiting for customers and customers are waiting for agents. And now we're able to actually define throughout the day. Yes, there are going to be periods where we don't have quite enough agents on the phone, or there might be a period where we have a few more agents than we actually need. But agents are human beings. We have to give them breaks. We have to give them lunches. And we have to let them live their lives. So how do we balance that between? And that's what a really, really good, strong WFM program, and when I say program, I don't mean just software. I mean the entire solution. The people, the decisions you make, those kind of things. Having a really strong story can help. Here's the other big thing about workforce management, is there is a very strong yet very simple ROI to implementing WFM. And this is just one very basic example. A conservative estimate of, let's say we saved 3%, right? Let's just throw a generic 3% out there. 100 agents times 40 hours a week times 52 weeks at $15 an hour is $3.1 million in payroll, right? That's not even a fully loaded number if we're going with fully loaded, right? So 3% is 6,240 hours. 6,240 hours times $15 an hour is $93,000. Okay, that's if I go with a very, very conservative estimate of 3% on my ROI, or my anticipated savings. So what does that mean? Most of our customers, when going from an Excel-based solution to adding in workforce management, typically see between a 15 and 20% return. So this is what you can see with 3%. 3% is what you get by basically almost doing nothing, except for just letting the solution run. 15 to 20 is what you can expect from a much stronger solution. So you can not only see that workforce management gives a strong story for agent happiness, for management happiness, streamlining processes, answering easier questions, but there's also a strong dollar amount figure attached to the implementation of a workforce management solution. So there we go. We have hit the 15-minute mark of the 15-minute webinar. So what I want to encourage you guys to do is, if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them. I want to make sure that you guys get anything you can out of this. We also want to give you an opportunity to get more information if you do. So I believe that we're going to be putting up a quick poll, and if you would like more information, you can go ahead and respond to that. So we can go ahead and do that now, and if there were any questions that came in, please, I don't know if I can see them or if I need someone to tell them to me, but we'll be glad to get those answered.
Well, thanks for that, Dave. Much appreciated. Hey, I do have one question for you that came in. Can workforce management help with media types other than phone calls?
Absolutely. So that's a great question because the contact center environment, the phone is always going to be important. But over the last probably 5 years, um, the focus on what we can do over the internet has really changed things. So now we're to the point now where it's not just phones and chats and emails anymore, but we also have to worry about things like web tickets, from CRM platforms and things like that. So that is a great question, and absolutely 100% workforce management is designed to do that. So we can look at almost any interaction type, if it's incoming or outgoing, and help you build forecasts and schedules over those things. So, our basic rule of thumb is anything that can be counted, we can do it. So we have customers that use Salesforce.com or Zendesk or email only or emails and chats, and we have blended agents. We just have to take into account the different sets of rules that go along with it. For example, when a phone call comes in, we have to answer it, right? It's a human being on the other end of that line, and they're not supposed to wait very long. But when a email comes in, there's an acceptable wait time before we answer those. So we have to make slight tweaks to how we forecast and how we actually schedule to those different interaction types. You can even take the example a little further. When a chat comes in, usually chat agents can handle multiple chats at one time. So you can't do that on a phone call, or at least you can try it, but it probably won't work very well. If you have you can take multiple chats at one time, so we have to make slight tweaks for that. But short answer to your question is absolutely. Whether we're talking about phones, inbound or outbound, emails, chats, back office work, even retail applications. So if you've got people processing paperwork, we can help you build a forecast and a schedule off of that kind of information. So great question, and hopefully that was the answer you were looking for.
Cool, thank you very much. Also had a question about work-life balance. Can you expand on how workforce management can help with the agent's work-life balance or with retention of agents?
Absolutely. So if you were to go and poll your agents and ask them what's the most important thing to them in their job, they're probably all going to say money, right? Their hourly wage. But in reality, what we've found is that truly their schedule is what really matters to most call center agents. Most of them have families and they have kids and daycare and they have different things. So what are the things we can do to address that? Well, we can start by, like I mentioned earlier, doing preference-based scheduling as opposed to fixed schedules. So being able to ask your agents, hey, when do you want to work? And let's do our best to try and give them the options that they can live with. Now, we all know in reality that the calls come first, and we sometimes have to make choices that our agents aren't super happy with as far as their schedules go. But if we're at least giving them the ability to have some input into that, that's a big part of it. We also introduce tools that help work-life balance, like mobile uses. So using your cell phone or your laptop at home to be able to access your schedule and request vacation time while you're sitting there with your family and things like that. Those are big parts of being able to do it. So imagine if you had an agent that said, I'd love to have a highly variable schedule throughout the week. Right? I'd like to start at 7:30 on Monday, 8:15 on Tuesday, 9:30 on Wednesday, because my son has a morning appointment every week at his daycare that I have to go to. In the old days of call centers, we wouldn't have even considered that. It's you start your schedule at 8 o'clock every single day, and that's what we do. But now with the dreaded M word, the millennials coming in, they want choice. They want the ability to be flexible. You've probably got college students working at your call center that need flexible schedules based on their day-to-day class schedules, things like that. So by giving options and tools to the agents that make them feel like they're part of the process, that can have an impact on not only their overall happiness, but your attrition levels as well. If we can help reduce those attrition levels by making your agents feel like they're part of the process and happier overall, all of a sudden our attrition levels go down. You start to notice that we're not having as many training classes as we used to. And let's be honest, training classes are expensive. Right? You are paying a trainer and 15 agents to sit in a room that you're getting zero productivity out of for 4 weeks, minimum, most cases. So what can we do if we can save you one training class a year? That's the amount of that's a significant amount of money that you're not burning through. So that's how we can kind of, those are just a few examples, but honestly we'd love to be able to talk more if you're interested, to give you a lot more deeper overview of that work-life balance.
Hey Dave, if you could lay off of the lack of training classes, that would make me happy. Thanks.
As the training manager.
Yep. Hey, what are some of the warning signs that my Excel spreadsheet isn't working anymore?
One of the real ones is if you have more than about 5 tabs in your Excel spreadsheet, that's a warning sign. If you have more than about 2 or 3 macros, that's a good warning sign. But another great warning sign, and this is the kind of crux of the whole argument, is what happens when things change during the day. An Excel spreadsheet can work really well for planning out next week or 2 weeks from now, or figuring out a forecast for February of 2017. But when 3 people in your call center call out sick, how quickly can you use your Excel spreadsheet to answer the question where you need to fix things today? Does it take you 25 minutes of work, or is there even not enough data for you to say, hey, I don't even know? That's when you should start to think about progressing from an Excel spreadsheet. And I get asked a lot of times, at what point should we start looking at a workforce management solution? And the easy answer for me is if you've got more than about 35 agents, that's probably when you should start looking. But on a deeper level, when you start to get frustrated at it's hard to find the data that I really want, if you have multiple skills, that almost renders an Excel spreadsheet irrelevant. If you have multi-skilled agents and you have multi-skilling in your call routing, that's an immediate disqualifier for Excel spreadsheets. Unless you happen to have also like majored in development and in mathematics at the same time, you're probably not getting the effectiveness level out of your Excel spreadsheet that you want. So that's a great question.
Gotcha. Awesome. Dave, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you at next month's webinar. Dave, thanks again.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.